Hi, Get Unstuck Nation. So today, please welcome Robin Wade with me today. Robin is a founder of Fearless Business, which we will talk a little bit about it, what exactly fearless means. So he's a regular speaker at various events. He is also best-selling authors of several books such as Business Startup or Marketing Machine, and the recent release one would be Take Your Shot. I'm excited to learn more about failed business because right now it's still at the pandemic time. I would still say that because it's not going to end anytime soon. Like things still keep happening that we couldn't control. So we're living in fear, but we won't let the fear stopping us. Thank you so much for joining Get Unstuck Radio today, Robin.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So before we start to know more about your expertise though, but could you tell me a little bit about how you become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it actually happened a bit by accident. So I always wanted to set up a business, but when I stepped out of high school, I ended up working for a medical devices company as a systems analyst. And I won't bore you with all of the ins and outs of that, but let's just say the boss of that company was a lovely guy, very smart when it came to designing products, but terrible at running a business. And so I ended up with quite a lot of responsibility as, a young sort of, late teenager and in my early 20s. And it got to a point where, and I was studying for a degree at the same time, got to a point where I asked for a bit more money because I had taken on the responsibilities of 2 or 3 other people's job roles as they left the company. And he refused. So I was just like, well, this isn't working for me because I'm doing a lot of work. So I'm going to go and start up my own thing. And at the time, there was a very good friend of mine. So I ended up going out to Florida for a week's holiday with my girlfriend at the time. And whilst I was out there, one of the guys who I used to work with called me up and he said, "Oh, I hear you've left the company. What's going on? What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I don't really have a plan." And he said, "Well, I'm doing this computer thing. Like, I hear you're good with websites. Like, why don't we just get together and start up a business?" So that was in 2004, and that was an agency which we set up doing web design and branding. We ran that for 12 years. So we ran the agency for the best part of 12 years, but it wasn't until about 7 or 8 years into the business where we started to find our stride in terms of sales and marketing and pricing and things like that. And we got it to, it's only a small boutique agency, local agency, but we got to £250,000 turnover. We had a small team of 4 people. So it's going along quite nicely. And then I reached a point whereby I was out with my cycling buddies one morning and just realized that actually I wasn't feeling terribly fulfilled. It felt like we had a lot of success with the business, but it just wasn't filling me up with sort of joy and happiness. I didn't want to get up and run into work in the morning. And what it came down to was that we'd spent a long time building this service client business. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it did get to a point whereby I realized one day that some of our clients looked at us like we were just there we're a servant. And I always saw myself as more of like a business partner within their business. And we were not just talking about websites and branding, but we were talking about, the key performance indicators in their business and what were their goals for their business and the strategy and things. So that's where I ended up selling the agency, not for a huge sum, but enough to live off for a little while. And set up Fearless Business so that I could actually have a platform to have these more meaningful conversations with the business owners, which I now have great pleasure of sort of working with.
So why is Fearless Business? Like, how this word coming up, Fearless?
Well, it's really funny, actually. So, I mean, it's like the reason the name came about in the first place, I was doing a talk in front of about 100 people, and somebody asked me a question, and I came back because originally it was just Robin Wade Business Coach, and then eventually it then became Robin Wade the Fearless Business Coach. But during this talk, I said something. I just went, it's not like we're on the plains of Africa where you walk down to get your water every day and there are crocodiles and lions and things like that. Like there's actually, like, there are genuine things to be afraid of on the plains of Africa. Whereas here and, running in small business land, like there's actually relatively nothing to be afraid of. And business owners just need to fear the things in business ever so slightly less that stop them from achieving their goals and dreams, which they set out for with their business. Things like standing in front of a group of people and doing your 60-second, pitch, or increasing your prices, for example. Like, everybody is so afraid of increasing their prices. They think that all of their customers are just going to run away. But all of these fears are based on imagination. They're not actually based on reality. So yeah, it's not about being reckless, right? Reckless would be just, trying to go after $1 million clients when you've only just started out. That would be slightly reckless because you've got to build up your credibility, your authority, your knowledge and things like that. It's about just fearing the things in business ever so slightly less so that you take that first action. And when people get it, it's like absolutely transformative.
Yeah. So you mentioned about your first business is about the service-based business. So you were service provider. But I think me personally, one of the person that I still like have to figure out about the real offer that like really tone in and then balance the part of like done for you service as well as something that could be evergreen or like become front end product that able to sell without me, and I could be like, me and my team could be only the fulfillment part and then keep customer happy or clients happy like that. So I think like many of people, including myself, like having this issue to choose whether which one should be like their core offer and what would be the price point that like keep them going, right? Because I totally resonate with that. Like when you mentioned that, like, I have to test, like I keep testing from like the sector of the market that I'm in and test that which one would give me the most ROI, and I close easy as sale. Let's say I just do it like that. I didn't think much though. I just asked them. So what would you suggest?
Gosh, there's about 8 questions in one there.
I know, because I can just like keep talking. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. I'll try and break it down. So, most service businesses are based on selling time for money. Okay, so day rates or hourly rates, for example. But there's a few problems like within that. Okay, so I'll give you an example and then we'll try and break it down. So let's say, for example, if you wanted to get a website built, and this is exactly what we used to do before I then realized there was a better way to do it. So let's say, Mutita, you're in the market for a website, right? So, and somebody comes to you and they charge $50 an hour and they think it's going to take them 20 hours to build this website for you. And you're kind of thinking, okay, well, that seems like reasonable value for money. So you agree to the piece of work, and away this person goes. But because they're maybe selling these websites for too cheap, they've taken on too many clients. So it takes them a long time to come back to you, like 3 months or something. And then they come back 3 months later and they give you this website, but they've forgotten the blog, they've forgotten the shopping cart that they promised you. And you're kind of sat there going, well, that's not what I asked. And maybe it doesn't look that great because they've only just started out. And you say, oh, great, but I want the blog and the shopping cart and I want it to look a bit better. And so their answer is, well, that's great, but I've used up your 20 hours. So it'll take another 10 hours, but you've got to pay for it. You're thinking, well, no, hang on, we agreed $1,000. Why am I now having to pay an extra $500? It's not. So you get resentful, they get resentful. Like it shows the hourly rate just isn't really a good model. The second person comes along, okay. Now, to balance it off, they're a brilliant web designer, but they don't know what you and I know about pricing. Okay, so they're also still charging $50 an hour, but they're brilliant at what they do. They listen to the brief, they do the blog and the shopping cart, and it starts generating you leads pretty much from day one when they launch the website. Okay, but it takes them half the time. They get it done in 10 hours, right? So hang on a second. The person who is better at building websites gets paid 1/3 of what the person who is less experienced and delivers a poor quality product does. So again, another reason why hourly rates just don't work. The better you are, if you're charging hourly, the less you end up getting paid, or certainly for most people. But then this is where we then get into the realms of like, there's essentially 3 things which make up a product, and I'll go through them in a second. So this final person comes along and they're like, Mutita, I'm going to build you a website, and it comes with some guarantees, right? In the next 30 days, this website I build you is going to generate you 15 to 20 leads a month. If it's not generating 15 to 20 leads a month for you, I'll refund you all of the money you've invested in it. Plus I'll give you $1,000 for wasting your time. Okay. Sold. Yeah, sold. Okay. But you haven't even asked me how much yet. But let's say, even if it was like $10,000, you and I know the value of our clients, right? So I could work out, well, if this just gets me a couple of clients, well, I've made an ROI. I've made my ROI back. I'm break even. So this is where we get into the realms of like value propositions and being able to articulate our value to our customers around service-based businesses. There was a great there's a great coach called Rich Litvin, and he wrote a book called The Prosperous Coach. And even if you're not a coach, it's really well worth reading the book, because I learned so much. Yeah, it's fantastic. And he talks about a product, essentially a coaching product, being made up of 3 components. Okay. So the product should have clearly defined outcomes or results for the client. Okay. So the second thing is it should be delivered, or you should have the ability to be able to deliver over a fixed period of time. Right. And the final part, it should be delivered for a fixed fee. So what he's saying is that as a coach now, I might offer a transformation, double your revenue in 3 months. Okay. And I'm going to charge X number of thousands of dollars for that to happen. And then you can start to wrap some guarantees around that. Well, if I don't achieve that with you, then we can talk about either ratcheting back the amount of money you paid me or complete refund if I just didn't deliver on my promise. But the thing is, a lot of people then get very hung up on guarantees, because nothing in life is guaranteed, right? I don't know that you're going to do the work. I don't know. It might require, for one person, it might require no input from me. From somebody else, it might require 100 hours input from me. So there's a lot of it depends going on sort of in the service space, and that throws a lot of people out. But the thing is, if I were to challenge somebody listening to this and say, listen, when you sell your product or service, if you're not confident enough in your ability to deliver that result or outcome to somebody in that period of time for that fee, that tells me more about you than it does about your client base, because you lack confidence in your ability to deliver. It's that simple. The other way to look at guarantees as well are it's about perceived value for money, basically. So whilst we may not be able to guarantee a clear and specific outcome, what we can guarantee is, provided we've got systems and processes in place and there's good levels of accountability and we deliver on a promise, plus maybe we find creative ways to over deliver on a promise, then it means that our clients are going to have very high perceived value for money. So their perception is, this was great. I had a really great experience. Maybe we didn't hit the goal, but I'm really happy that you've done everything you possibly can to try and achieve that. And get somewhere close to that outcome results. And most people, when you ask them, when they work with a service provider, their perception is they got great value for money, and so refunds never have to come into it. So it's about being able to give people confidence. You're a good, upstanding human being. You have ethical and moral, high ethical and moral compass, and that you're confident in your ability to deliver those results.
So I think confidence and fear are something that angel and enemy all the time, angel and demon all the time on my shoulder, because there are many ship with me, and I have spoken with many of my friends who are in this coaching and training industry, that it's always trigger sometimes that you don't feel confident to overcome things, but if you don't go over those fear though, you don't know what is in the other side at all.
Yeah, that's it. So here's a really good example of that. Okay. And this is linked to what I help people with around the pricing side of things. So in fact, we can probably, if you're game, Mutita, I can do a quick bit of coaching with you, and we can I can show by example and see where we end up. So you mentioned that you used to do some done for you services. So think of one of those products, for example, that you used to sell. So what is it, and what was your hourly rate for selling that service?
Oh, it's not hourly rate. So I have never really charged by hour, to be honest. So
okay, well, or a fixed price package then, and we'll do a bit of work with that.
Yeah, so $1,500 a month for operating system setup. For 6 month period of time.
Okay, so actually, so what you said there is it's not productized yet, because you're selling it for $1,500 a month times by 6 months. So actually, do the math on that. So that's $9,000. Okay, yeah. So first and foremost, when somebody says how much is this product, do you say to them it's $1,500 a month, or do you say no, we'll get you systemized in 6 months and it's $9,000?
I said 9,000.
9,000. Okay, so that's the first part. Is there anyone out there who is charging more than that for the same product for what you do?
Yeah, similarly, it could go to $50K a year, if I have heard.
Okay, so $50K. So now what we've got is something called bandwidth. Most people, when they think of pricing, they see it as binary. So it's cheap or expensive, yes or no, I'm in or I'm out, like it's for me or it's not for me. Okay, that's how most people see pricing. They can either see themselves buying it or they can't. But actually what you've just done is you've created a bandwidth. So you said, I'm charging 9,000 and I'm comfortable with that. Somebody else is charging 50,000 and that feels a little bit like beyond the realms of possibility. Yeah. And all of the numbers that sit in between. Now, here's the crux of it. Is there a world somewhere in the future that you could be charging 50K for your product?
Yeah, but not with this one. I don't think that only the current deliverable would be enough value for clients to pay that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you've done, first mistake is you've just gone and made a unilateral decision on behalf of all of your clients.
Oh.
Yeah.
Think for them too much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're very generous though, because you're just like, well, I'm going to sell it to you cheap because I'm not sure about, yeah. So, but you've made a unilateral decision on behalf of all of your clients. Now, probably there may, and again, a lot of people, this is where the fear creeps in. They believe that their existing clients won't pay more money because they'll just leave because it's too expensive. But there's two different types of clients. Okay. So the first type of client is your existing client base. And yes, they've been anchored into a certain price point. Okay. The second type of client, they've got no experience of working with you. They don't know about the value, the amazing value that you deliver for your clients, the results that they can expect. They don't know how much you charge for it or have charged for it in the past. So they're not anchored to anything at the moment. So you have a really clear opportunity to raise your price for new prospective clients. Okay. And then this falls into another trap, which a lot of people get sort of stuck with. So if I were to say to you, if you imagine you had to buy a similar service to your own, you're buying it from somebody else, how much would you pay for it?
I actually paid I could go for 3K a month. I'm thinking monthly, my fixed expenses. That's how I say. So let's say for 6 months, it would be how much?
18K.
Yeah, 18K. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you're saying is, I'm happy to buy it, but I'm not happy to sell it. Okay, so there's a little bit of a confidence there around. Normally, most people are, they're kind of a mirror. So how they buy stuff is reflected in how they sell things. Okay, so there'll be something in that with you, but I'm really pleased to hear that you're willing to spend a bit more money on it. So the question is, why wouldn't you sell it for 18K?
It hasn't been success yet for that price. Yeah. From the current market that I am in, that's why I haven't challenged myself to go there yet.
Okay, so good. Thank you for your honesty. So we're going to play a little game now. So again, I'm just working on the bandwidth between 9K, 50K, and we've got something in the middle now, which is 18K. But what we want to work out is, where is your level of confidence in terms of your pricing right now? And how we do it is quite simple. Now, probably if there are people watching this, they'll be able to see you and I now. But for people listening in, I'll explain, if this is going on a podcast, I'll explain afterwards what happened. But we're going to do an auction. Okay, so we're going to start at 9K. You don't have to say anything, and I'm going to gradually work my way up, and I will know when we've hit your level of confidence. Okay. You
make me chill. Okay, I'm ready.
So we have a guy in the UK called Darren Brown, so I'm going to do a bit of a Darren Brown on you. Okay, so 9K, so 9, 10, 12, 15K, 18K, 21. Are you doing poker face with me? 21K, 22K, 25K, 30K. 35? Yeah, is it 40K?
That's too much.
You sell it too much. So actually you're within your comfort zone. Now you lied to me. You told me that 18K was a bit, you can't see the value in it. But actually your face, you were like actually fine up until 30K. That was inside your comfort zone.
Yeah. I mean, I can say that, but I mean, I tried selling that, just not success yet. So that's why. That doesn't mean that
you're pitching it at 30, which is great. And that's the thing. So now imagine a world where you've sold just one client at 30K.
Yeah. So I made it, right?
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's about validation. So most people, when they say, I can't put my prices up because nobody will buy,
Hmm.
and I challenge them on it, it's normally because they haven't, like your circumstances are slightly different because you've actually pitched it at a higher price point. Most people have never actually even pitched at a higher price point. So they've got no evidence to back up it's like an assumption. I'm assuming that nobody will buy it when it's more expensive, but actually they've never actually put themselves out there at a higher price point. So kudos to you for doing that. So I would challenge anybody basically to go out and go through the exercise we went through. So like, do an auction until it starts to become slightly uncomfortable. And that's the price point you should be selling it at and trialing it at. But the next part of it is make sure that you've got enough data to back up that assumption. So you'd want to pitch it probably to 10 or 20 people. And like, fair enough, if you've got 20 no's, you probably know it's too expensive, or maybe you need some help on the sales side of things because you're clearly getting interest and leads coming in. Your marketing's working, but you're just struggling to convert those opportunities. So if anybody's interested, put your prices up, test it on 10 to 20 people. And a good conversion rate is typically somewhere between about 1 in 5 and 1 in 3. Okay. So round the numbers, 20% to 40% is a good conversion rate for a productized service. Okay. So out of, let's say 10 people, you should be aiming to convert at least 2 of them, 2, 3 or 4 of those people at that higher price point. And look, if you only convert 1 of them, probably the money's, a little bit too rich and maybe you need to like dial it back in a little bit. If you're converting more than 40%, you've got bandwidth there to be able to increase the price a little bit more and increase it a bit more. And you can also see as your confidence grows, what's going to happen. You'll have more confidence to put the price up. You'll get better at sales. You'll learn how to sell at a higher price point. And I don't know about you, but what I found is when clients commit at a higher price point, generally speaking, they're better quality clients as well, because they get the value you're offering. They understand it and there's skin in the game because they've invested quite heavily in it.
Yeah. I think I somehow, I'm still stick to the picture of like the pyramid offer, if you know what I mean. So it would be like one-on-one, those like private, more time consuming, be higher price. And I try to work my way, get the core offer sold. So what I told you was the offer that I don't really sell anymore because it's too much time consuming and it doesn't work with my time. So right now I'm releasing like a membership one. Would be, I assume that it would be a front end that would be like a toolbox somehow, and then upsell them to like next level and next level. So this year, like we're working on those back end to get different type of flow to have like more certification that moving on to the future after the trademark release and so on. So I maybe have no need to do the consulting and I could build legacy somehow. That would be my dream, let's say, having those franchise things. So I'm moving towards that. So productize the service. Yeah,
that's it. You've hit upon a really key thing there around sort of the fulfillment side of things. So obviously that there's 3 types of fulfillment. So DIY. So especially in the coaching course creator sort of space, it's like having a course basically is DIY. Here's the manual, you go and do it. The second one is done with you. So that's where you've leveraged your time better and you get better economies of scale. So, in my world, what that looks like is a group coaching program, for example, as opposed to one-to-one. And then you finally get your done for you service, which it sounds like that's more of like your consulting offer. And they should be priced like that. DIY should be like, £3. This is not bad maths, but you get a picture. DIY should be £3. Done with you as a leveraged like group program or something should be £6, and then the done for you should then be double that again, £12. Yeah. So your consulting offer, which you're like not so fussed about doing so much, is like super expensive. Because which offer then do you think people are more likely to gravitate towards?
Yeah, and anyone who listening to here, this is like a real life scenario and I'm totally be open with that. But I think somehow people also caught up with the word high ticket clients, high ticket offer, which is like, it's not really a high ticket though. It's just like, what is the result that you give them?
Yeah. High tickets, it's like click funnels. It's like Russell Brunson. Honestly, like you're just one funnel away. All of that is like BS, if you'll excuse, these are just catchy titles that people are given to stuff. I just, it's just a product which you're selling. That's it. It's no less complicated than that. And if you are solely focused on the results or outcomes which you generate for your clients, then you're winning. Again, one of the biggest mistakes that people see, especially around sales, is that I mentioned about like getting a 1 in 5 conversion rate. The amount of people who say that's a really like 20% is a really poor conversion rate. Well, it is if you want all of the clients, but the reality is like most of us are just humble human beings with 160 hours a week to work, or 160 hours a month, sorry, to work. You know, we can't serve all of the clients. Okay. And you can't deliver there's not that many businesses that take clients en masse and deliver it really well to lots of like thousands of people. So like the ideal business in my mind is to have double the revenue and half the number of clients. And the reason for that is then you get paid more to be able to, you can deliver a better quality service. You have more time to be able to deliver a better quality product as well, because you're working with fewer clients, which means that if they buy one of your products on the back end, an offer on the back end, you get paid more money for that. And so it's a more virtuous cycle where you just end up with a bit more time and freedom and things like that, and you can deliver a better quality product. But where people get hung up at like 1 in 5, it means that for every one client that's saying yes to you or you're allowing into your business, you're turning 4 away. Now, I have no problem with that because I'm completely detached from the outcome, and I only want to take on clients who are going to get the best possible result through working with me, where I truly believe in their business and I know that I can help them get that result. You know, if somebody's not a good fit for Fearless Business, I have no qualms in saying no. I'll always try and give them a referral if I think there's somebody better than me, where they'd be best housed. I think there's a lot of ego which comes into that whole high ticket thing where it's all about conversions and, you know, KPIs and sales optimization and persuasive selling techniques and stuff. And it's just, it's not pleasant. Like I've been on the receiving end of it. I've signed up to coaching programs where they tried to teach me to do it. And I'm just like, nah, it just makes me feel icky. It's just not nice.
Icky. Yeah. You know? I mean, I'm on the side of like operating system, right? So I have seen people change every day. Can you imagine like when they get new software from like Sumo app, for example, and then they come up like, hey, I want to change the project management to this one. I just got a lifetime deal. And they're like, every week there is a new software coming up to change how they operate back end. And I'm like, this is not good. So yeah, like what you are saying, like I think people change too often.
Yes.
The way that they don't confident and they fear of something. I think fear playing a very big role though. Like somehow they give us like more ego on one hand that like, well, I think I'm right to like be away from those things. On the other hand, just like, would you regret not doing that? You know?
But it comes down to basic mechanics, right? So a lot of the shiny things that you've just sort of talked about there that we're being sold, like, you know, new pieces of software and funnels and automation and all that sort of stuff. Like there was a period of time where the internet was kind of booming and more people were moving online, more businesses were starting up, where actually like that side of things was really relevant. I think in 2022, like funnels and automation is actually completely irrelevant, if I'm honest. You've got to have a certain amount of systemization in your business. But think about it this way. I don't know if you're familiar with the Fiat Cinquecento, the car.
No.
You know, there's a tiny little Fiat Italian car, right?
Car. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like a baby car.
Yeah, tiny little Fiat Cinquecento car. It's a really cute little car, but it's only got a 500cc engine, right? What's going to happen if we add rocket fuel into that car?
On top of it? Well, it's going to be skyrocket, of course.
Well, no, of course it won't, because it's still only got a 500cc engine. So it won't go any faster.
Oh, you mean just like push it further? Oh, okay, got it.
So if you put rocket fuel not a rocket on it, but if you put rocket fuel into the Fiat 500 instead of normal fuel, right, it won't go any faster because it's not designed to go really fast. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Eventually, it'll probably just blow itself apart because rocket fuel is highly combustible. Okay, and this is a rickety little engine. So in this like story for business owners, right, that this is like the engine in that car is like their business engine. And it's a rickety little 500cc engine. And then like the rocket fuel is actually marketing. So we've got this rickety engine and we're firing more clients into it. It's just going to blow it apart. So I always say to people, you need to focus on getting that business engine right first before you then look to scale it. So what this looks like, for example, I mean, I've experienced this with my coaching practice. Okay. So I've been through all of those shiny object things and systems and funnels and automation and stuff like that. But do you know what plugged all of the holes in my marketing funnel?
What is that?
People.
Delegate.
Right? People and process. Okay. So take, for example, so I have 3 or 4 main sort of lead magnets for my business. Okay. So my books, obviously, I have videos, I have a podcast, I have a scorecard. Okay. So that's a good lead generator for me. And a couple of other ones. But first of all, what we do is we don't just collect name and email address. We want slightly better qualified leads. We collect a telephone number. And so we noticed we had our conversion rates dropped when we asked for a telephone number. So it's more expensive per lead, but we got better quality leads. But the trouble was it was really slow to get them from our list into booking calls with me. So we made one simple tweak, okay, and provided we do a bit of research if they're our ideal client, and we'll give them a call. So have somebody just picks up the phone, speaks to them for 10 or 15 minutes and says, hey, remember that marketing checklist or that book or that video which we promised you? Did you receive it? And half the time people didn't receive the things because it was going via email and just getting lost out on the internet. Okay. So now we've got a bit of extra information. So, and we can send them the thing which we promised them manually. And from there, we can then strike up a conversation. Oh, great. So we've sent that out to you. Oh, by the way, did you know that Robin's running an event next week? Did you know that Robin's got a book you can download? Did you know that Robin's does a 30-minute call with you? Oh, no, I didn't know about that stuff. So what we found was that for every 10 leads, for example, that we had in our database sat there that we were just hoping would eventually turn into clients, somewhere in the region of about 3 or 4 of them, when we called them, would go on to the next step and book something. Imagine that. 30 or 40% of people in your list right now are sat there waiting for you to give them something else. And you're just hoping that an automated funnel is going to feed it to them.
Yeah, it's always about conversation. I understand you. I think people like somehow, like how we get anxiety or anxious is because we think too further in the future. So if you think too much on the future without like reverse engineer how many steps it would take you there, like how you write a copywriting, right? You expect people to read just another paragraph in general. So if you can lead to the call to action, the next one, you could guide them along your funnel anyway without any automation. So yeah, I get what you mean. I didn't. My consulting, I do management consulting firm. So we not really do like the whole implementation of like set up backend automation because I'm not that techy. I know how it works. So we do the part of like, you have issue training people to go with the flow with your process and already working. If yes, so send it over to us. We do the SOP and help you train them. So we do the online training process instead, and those team building, employee engagement. So that's going to be the next issue after they scale, right? We use OKR to combine with KPI and then like track these things to keep further. So because I personally believe that I have a business because I want to help people get more jobs. It's not in the way that like I just want freedom. I would have freedom anyway because I built this business surrounding my lifestyle. That's why this community calls Get Unstuck, because I just like boutique team that like not too headache and so on. So yeah, I mean, everyone that's keep listening to this podcast, they know I'm just like, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if you didn't do it because you fear of like going out there and like chasing a higher quality clients because you're not sure, at some point you have to try something new anyway, right? If you don't know how to do that, figure it out. You get more
that's
money.
it. But you know what I've realized is that people are trying to put automation in there to overcome fear. They want systems to do the work for them so that they don't have to do.
So I have this solution. So my process would be systemize, automate, and delegate. So bear with me. If you haven't systemized things yet, So if you cannot tell me how you do things and get that repeated outcome with that workflow, I don't suggest you to automate. People jump to automation too fast and they spend money on it and they say that, why I don't get any result, right?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I see it all the time. And it's just, but this is the thing about like click funnels, right? And I mention it, and probably even me saying it, people will go off and like look at it anyway. Please don't buy it, because like it sounds like it's really straightforward just to set up a funnel and whatever. But when you get into it and you get into like landing page design, follow-up processes, one-click upsells, connecting it to your email list and all the rest of it, it's massively technical. And I come from a background, I spent 12 years of my life building websites, right? And I still struggle with stuff like that. I can get it done, don't get me wrong, but you have to be so highly technical. And where you've got people who just aren't technical, you know, being befuddled by things like that, it's just like, actually, how can I, it might feel a little bit uncomfortable to start off with picking up the phone and calling people. And the amount of times when I've encouraged even clients to sort of start, if they've got leads, pick up the phone and call these people. And they're like, oh, I don't like cold calling. I'm really scared of cold calling. I'm like, it's not cold. They've given you their name, email address, telephone number because they need your help with something. They've opted in. They're not like hot. They're not hot lead, but at least they're a little bit warmer than you think they are. And probably they would be really grateful for the opportunity to speak with you. And I think this is just, and it does slow the process down. Like, don't get me wrong. It's like, yes, an automation can happen with no effort internally. And you're replacing that with something, you know, a 15-minute call potentially, but at least, you know, it's getting the job done. And that's what most business owners, when you ask them for the stats about their business, they don't know whether their automation shiny funnel system in the background is actually working or not. And more often than not, it's not working, but they've got no way of like measuring that. You mentioned OKRs. I mean, that's a great way to kind of break down like whether the various different steps in your business are actually working or not.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get you. Like, I started this coaching and consulting journey with like those courses as well. So I spend a lot of money with those things, and like, it doesn't work. Like, it's not just like those easy things that like do what I say and just you're gonna get the result. At the end of the day, it's your own business. You have to figure out by yourself anyway. And oh, one compliment I was thinking when you mentioned about your website. I think your website is very easy to navigate though. And yeah. I am so surprised because I was like from those because these days are like coaches are like all around, right? But who are really the coach who guide them and ask the right question to get their result that they're actually looking for. So surprisingly, when you mentioned that, there are many people who are like in the industry for a bit of time, not believe in funnel, like a real look-alike funnel. So not like how SEP it would look like, because sometimes people can over misconception about what funnel really means, but like those like scroll down sale page and so on, it may not work for everyone, right?
Yeah. That's it. And I try and keep it fairly simple. So I have a formula which is 70-10-2. And there's also a question mark at the start of it as well, not at the end, but at the start. So the question mark stands for content. So you put some content out there, or a lead magnet or something of value that your audience are going to engage with. And you can do as much or as little of that as you like, but the goal is to then start to take those people and move them into 70-10-2. And this isn't about like a funnel. This is just about knowing your numbers in your business. So the 70 is 70 conversations. Can I put some content out that is going to generate some conversations with some people? Okay. And that it could just be simply, maybe I do a LinkedIn post and 20 people comment on it. Right. So am I actually then going into like connecting with those people, tapping them up in Messenger on LinkedIn and saying, hey, I noticed you commented on my post. What was it you liked about it? So that's just starting that conversation off. And if we did 70 of those a month, we're doing well. Okay. And then from there, we then want to have a much deeper, a meaningful conversation with somebody about, okay, well, we start that conversation off and we qualify them and see whether they might be a good fit for our product or service, whether they're interested in it, whether they need it, all of those good things. But can we take 10 of those people out of the original 70 and actually then have a consultation with them where we see whether it's a good fit or not? And then finally, out of 70-10-2, the 2 is obviously the number of sales you get at the end of it. most people kind of just, that's a very simple formula, 70-10-2. We can all do that. Conversations, consultations, and closes. Okay. But most people just don't track their numbers. I spoke at an event where there was about just under 100 people. And I walked them through the 70-10-2 model. And then I asked the question, how many of you know your numbers? How many of you know how many consultations you're doing each month? How many people you convert? What revenue that produces on the bottom of it? And out of 100 people, 2 people put their hands up. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's slightly shocking. Just basic numbers in your business. And of the 2 people, one guy said, kind of. So even he wasn't sure. And then the other person went 8-4-2. Okay, it wasn't 70-10-2. You've got to work out what your formula is, but she went 8-4-2. She knew her numbers. And she works for actually one of the largest financial advisory companies in the UK. So they have a very streamlined process to get leads in, give them to an IFA, and then close the work, close the deal. So, and she was like 8-4-2. Give me 8 clients, 4 will book an appointment, 2 will become clients. So that's it. But 1 in 100 people know their numbers, and it's just absolutely shocking.
Yeah. But I also understand that it could be overwhelmed to set up those tracking though. Like, not everyone like to put things in spreadsheet. Therefore, they thought about the automation and then they were stuck at the point to set up those automation to track for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're gonna need a second episode where we can go through that perhaps.
That's gonna be a long one. Anyway, so can you talk about your book, the Take Your Shot then?
Yeah, so Take Your Shot was actually I did a webinar right at the end of just before I sold my agency, and it was designed for web designers. That was ultimately who I thought my initial coaching clients were going to be, because that's what I'd done. Very randomly, I get this call off of a guy who'd shown up to the webinar, and he's like, Robin, I love the webinar. It's absolutely brilliant. And he went off, and eventually I said, well, just hold on a second. What is it that you do? And he said, I'm a golf pro. And I was like, how did you get on a webinar for web designers and you're a golf pro? Anyway, so he ultimately ended up becoming one of my first coaching clients. And we went through a journey. I won't give too much away because obviously it tells the full story in there, but he was just really struggling, like lovely guy, doing everything right at a young family, just really struggling to get his golf pro business off the ground, giving adults and children golf lessons and things like that. Sometimes he would show up and it would be raining on a Saturday and like half his clients wouldn't turn up, so then he wouldn't get paid. So he had all these just inherent problems in his business. The business engine wasn't working for him. So the story in Take Your Shot, he meets a coach, they fix his business, and then he then from there like becomes very successful. He gets onto the speaking circuit, and so the story kind of unfolds. But really it's Take Your Shot is about just anybody who runs a small service client business who wants to productize it, understand how better to price it and position it. And there's a bit in the book as well where it talks about goal setting as well, because again, most entrepreneurs don't think about their goals. They're just like, they're living in the moment. But yeah, so that's kind of the long and the short of the book. I have got, for anybody listening or watching this, I have got a gift as well. So there's a digital version of it available. If you want to download it, just go to fearless.biz/TYS for Take Your Shot. It's lowercase as well. So fearless.biz/TYS. And if you want to share a link in the show notes as well, Mutita, then please do.
Sure. So that link, if you couldn't catch that, it will be in the description as well as the show notes, because we have covered a lot of things and I don't want you to miss out this book because it's going to be amazing. So Robin, thank you so much for such an amazing conversation. I think if anyone still stay tuned until now, would have to think about your number by now. Like, where are you in the journey? Like, do you want to step further along the way or step back a little bit? Know things a little bit and then improve it so that you can grow further in your business as you wish. So Robin, thank you so much for joining Get Unstuck Radio today. And yeah, if anyone want to follow you, where can they reach out to you then?
Yeah, the best bet is, I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn and things like that, or you could just Google Robin Waite. That's Waite with an E on the end of it as well, and you'll be able to find me. And I've got not just the book, but on fearless.biz, there's several other resources as well, which your listeners might find helpful too. So just jump onto the website and you'll find my social links and a few free gifts for everybody out there as well.
Yeah, there are quizzes. There are like a lot of blogs that you guys may enjoy. So feel free to check out. All of everything will be in the description as well as the show notes. So thanks again, Robin. Appreciate you today.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe here or here. And this is the previous episode. Check it out. See you next time.